saved in future. Because $1 today in future carries $1 plus interest. Am I right? Money contains a time value. We use interest to represent the time value of money. Only possible to compare and combine money or value at the same point in time. For example, today there is a project. This project will give me $1 cash flow in year 1, $1 cash flow in year 2. How much is the total value of this project? $2? No. Why? The cash flow of these two projects happened at different points in time. It happened at different points in time. The first cash flow happened at year 1. Second cash flow happened at year 2. Can you simply sum them together? You can't. We are only possible to compare and combine values if it happened, and only if it happened at the same point in time in finance. And that's the major difference between finance and other major, like accounting. You can't combine cash flows. Money happen at different points in time. Does this make sense for you? Second question, think. Today there is a project. This project will give me $1 in 1 year's time. What is the value of this project today? Is it 1? No. Still not. Because it will give us $1 in 1 year's time. But I want to know the value of the project right now, today. That $1 is a future value, not present value. We need to convert this $1 to present value. Am I right? Intuitively, if there's two cash flow, if you want to know the value of the project, you need to convert both of the cash flows to the same point in time. Do you agree? So if we want to know the value of that project, the one I mentioned at the beginning, we have to discount or compound, work out the present value or future value of that $1 cash flows at the same point in time, then sum them together. If you don't understand it at this stage, that's okay. We have numerous examples later on. Just let you know that we cannot combine cash flows when they happen at different points in time. Okay? Financial decisions are evaluated either on a future value basis or present value basis. Because in most of the case, when we talk about financial decision, we have to consider all of the cash flows of the project. To this end, we have to figure out an approach to bring all of the cash flows to the same point in time. You can either bring all of the future cash flows back to today, or you can bring all of the future cash flows to some point in future. And in this way, you will have all of the cash flows in the same point in time. Then you can combine those cash flows. Any questions? Good. Now let's move to next slide. A very simple example. We are only possible to compare or combine value at the same points in time. So if you look at those two cash flows in red box or red circle, the first $18,000 happened at time 0, right now. And the second $20,000 happened at time 1. Are we able to sum them together? We can't. These cash flows cannot be compared and combined as they occurred at different points in time. But what about cash flows happen at year 2? The $20,000 and the $10,000 in the blue box, in the green box. You can sum them together, right? Because both of these two cash flows happen at year 2, same point in time. Now you have the logic in your mind. That is, if you want to combine cash flows or compare cash flows, you have to bring all of the cash flows into the same point in time. Once they happen at the same point in time, you can either combine them or compare them. Get it? And that's how it works. Up to this stage, any questions? Another example that's relevant to real life, which is very simple. Think about it. Today, if you work outside, if you do, for example, a labor job, your annual salary could be $100,000. But back to 50 years ago, if you do a labor job, your annual salary probably only $5,000. Am I right? But you can't claim that my salary is much higher than the labor 50 years ago, because you can't simply compare those two cash flows. You can't compare your salary right now with the salary 50 years ago. You have to bring both salaries into the same time. Either you bring your salary back to 50 years ago, or you bring the 50 years ago salary back to today. Otherwise, you cannot compare those cash flows. Does this make sense for you? So that's how it works. All right, future value. Future value, very easy to define. The value of an investment made today measured at a specific future date using compound interest. The value of an investment made in today. I invest $10 into the bank today. I measured at a specific future date in 1 year's time and using compound interest. So in my question, it's simply asking you, if I put $10 into the bank today, in 1 year's time, what is the value of my $10? And that is your future value. Does this make sense for you? And that's how we define future value. Now, let's assume the interest is 6%. Let's do it step by step. I know, like, for students who do have mathematical background, this is very easy for you, all right? But still, let's go through this step by step, okay? At the very beginning, I have $100. I invest into the project, and this project will give me 6% interest every year. Now, at the end of year one, time one, what is my future value of this $100? Very easy. $100 principal plus $6 interest, because interest equal to $100 times 6%. Do you agree? So $100 principal plus $6 interest, which means my $100 at the end of year one will be $106. Am I right? Okay. My $100 at the end of year one will be $106, which include $100 principal and $6 interest. Let's say the beauty of compound interest. What about the future value of this $100 at year two? Now, I invest $100 at time zero. At the end of year one, it is $106. I invest it for another year. Listen carefully. Between year one to year two, the $100 principal will give me another $6 interest. Am I right? But from year zero to year one, we have $6 interest. Am I right? This $6 interest will generate interest between year one to year two. Interest on interest. This is named as compound interest. Does this make sense for you? Let me see it again. At time zero, I invest $100. It will give me $6 interest from year zero to year one. At the end of year one, I have $106 in my bank account. This $106, I put it into the bank for another year. Within this $106, the $100 principal will again generate $6 interest for me from year one to year two. And my first year's interest, the $6, will also generate interest for me from year one to year two. Interest on interest. Does this make sense for you? How it looks like? We can represent it in two different approaches. As you can see, you can either calculate it by using $106 at the end of year one times interest to work out your total interest from year one to year two, which is $6.36. Am I right? Question. Within this $6.36, how much of them is your interest on principal? 6, right? How much of them is your interest on interest? 36 cents. If you use $6 times 6%, it's just 36 cents. And that's how it works. So in short, your compounding interest on principal is $6, and your interest on interest is 36 cents. And your overall interest for the second year is 6.36 cents. Now, if this is the case, some of the students may recognize, hey, Robert, we don't need to consider it in this way. Let's simply use one equation to work it out. Because if we have the equation, we can simply plug the number into the equation and work it out. Am I right? And the equation here is very easy to understand. What is future value? Okay, we know present value. Future value for year 1 should be present value times 1 plus interest. To this end, future value for year 2 will then equals to present value times 1 plus interest for year 1, then times 1 plus interest for year 2, which equals to present value times 1 plus interest to the power of 2. Get it? To the power of 2, 2 means number of years or number of compounds. How many times your cash flow get compounded, or how many times your principal get compounded. Does this make sense for you? If you don't understand, that's perfectly okay, because not all of our students have mathematical background. Okay, some of the students may be from different major. If you don't understand, that's okay. We have more and more examples. Okay, this process is a compounding process. So we have future value at time 2 equal to present value, 100 times 1 plus interest to the power of 2. What about if I want future value at year 3? 100 times 1 plus interest to the power of 3. Intuitively, future value at year 5 will be present value times 1 plus interest rate to the power of 5. Okay? If this is the case, let's verify it. What about if we do have it for 3 years? That's the process, or that's the illustrations about how I derive these little equations above, okay? What about year 3? Easy. So future value at time 1 is equal to 100 times 1 plus interest. Future value at time 2 equal to 100 times 1 plus interest to the power of 2. At the end of year 2, the future value is $112.36. I decide to put my money into the bank for another year. From year 2 to year 3, I should have 3 components of cash flows. The first one, I have my interest on principal. The second one, I have my interest on my first year's interest. The third one, I have my interest on my second year's interest. Does this make sense for you? So overall, how it looks like? It simply equals to $112.36 plus $112.36 times 6% will give you the future value in year 3. But we can decompose it, the cash flow in this approach. It simply equals to present value times 1 plus interest of first year times 1 plus interest of second year times 1 plus interest of third year, and then give you future value for year 3. And that's the whole logic behind it. Up to this stage, any questions? It's not hard, right? So future value of year 1 is equal to 100 times 1 plus interest rate. Future value of year 2 should equal to future value of year 1 times 1 plus interest rate, which equal to present value times 1 plus interest rate times 1 plus interest rate, which equals to present value times 1 plus interest rate to the power of 2. Similarly, or intuitively, future value of year 3 equals to future value of year 2 times 1 plus interest rate, which equals to present value times 1 plus interest rate times 1 plus interest rate of second year times 1 plus interest rate of third year, which is present value times 1 plus interest rate to the power of 3. 3 times. And that's basically everything about present value, future value. This is everything about future value and how we work it out. In short, in practice, as long as you know the interest rate, you are then able to work out future value. Now, please note that in practice, if you put your money into the bank, you know the present value because you know how much money you save into the bank, right? You know the interest rate because you know the interest rate the bank will offer you, right? So you can easily work out the future value of your cash flow for the next couple of years. Get it? If you invest a project, you know the present value because you know exactly how much money you invested into the project. You then, based on the knowledge you learned from this unit and your business, you can then estimate a return or expected return, right? And this expected return is the interest that you are expecting that you can generate from this project every year. Am I right? You are then able to work out the future value of this project. For example, I put $100 into the bank, interest rate 2%. At the end of the year, I should have future value of $102. For example, I invested into a project $100. Based on my estimation, this project will give me 15% return over the year. At the end of the year, the future value should be $100 times 1 plus 15%, which will be $115. Does this make sense for you? Okay? The word interest is pretty general in finance. Interest can represent interest from financial institution. Interest can also represent like return from a project or expected return. We will talk about the relationship later, but just give you a general idea. And that's basically everything about future value fundamentals before we move to the example. Any questions? Good. We have the future value equation. Future value equal to the present value times 1 plus R. R is the interest. To the power of n, n is the number of compounds or number of years. If we compound the cash flow annually, n represents number of years. If we compound the cash flow semi-annually, which means you receive your interest every half year, n will be number of half years. If we compound cash flow monthly, which means you will receive interest every month, n will be number of months. Does this make sense for you? Okay, good. Future value. The value of an investment made today measured at a specific future date. Future value depends on 3 components. In this equation, as you can see, it depends on interest rate. I put money into the bank, the value of my future value depends on interest rate. Think about my example. The higher the interest rate, the higher the future value. Depends on number of periods. The longer the time you put in the money into the bank, the higher the future value, right? And also depends on the compounding interval. Compounding interval means frequency. Monthly, semi-annually, or annually. So compounding interval. If it's compounding monthly, your future value will be higher than the future value of its compounding annually. Okay? The higher the compounding frequency, the higher the future value. So basically, if interest rate increase, if n increase, the future value increases. Up to this stage, any questions? Let's see the power of compounds. And do one example. Since we don't have any question, let's look at this example and see whether you are able to do it. Now, please note that in your final exam, you cannot bring your computer with you. And you cannot bring your phone with you, mobile phone with you as well. which means you are not able to use Excel. You are only able to bring a calculator with you in the final exam. You are only able to bring a calculator with you in the final exam. Now, as probably discussed last week, financial calculator is not compulsory for this unit, but financial calculator is certainly much easier for you to use in the final examination. Am I right? If you do have a financial calculator, you can easily work out the compounding interest and future value, present value. If, unfortunately, you don't want to buy a financial calculator, you can still use a normal calculator, but you need to time the interest manually. For example, 1 plus r to the power of n means it gets compounded 5 times. By using financial calculator, you can calculate it in one go, right? But if you only have a standard calculator, you have to do it manually for 5 times. Okay? It's still doable, it's just going to waste you some time. All right? Please also note that you cannot bring your mobile phone with you in the final exam. I do have students ask me a question, hey Robert, can I download an app on my iPhone and then take into the exam? I can then use my calculator. Unfortunately, you can't. At this stage, still not. Okay, I hope the university can probably have a better standard in the future, but nowadays we probably still need to use a calculator. Okay, this is something that I can't change, so don't blame me if you have to buy a calculator. Now, if you do want to buy a financial calculator, I strongly recommend you to buy the calculator recommended by your textbook. The reason is because the textbook have full illustrations about how to use this calculator. If you do use other brands, that's okay. Download the instruction menu, Google it, and read the instruction menu by yourself. Learn how to use your calculator. Okay? Up to this stage, any questions? Let's see how do we do this question. You have an opportunity to invest $100 into the bank and pays 6% interest annually. So annual interest rate every year. How much money you will have at the end of 5 years? A typical example about future value, right? I invest $500 into the bank today for 5 years. How much money will I have in my pocket in 5 years' time? How to work it out? Present value, 100, right? Interest rate, 6%, right? N, how much is it? N, number of years, 5 years, am I right? $100 present value, 6% interest rate, 5 years, number of years. Put the number into the equation. Are you able to work it out? So the future value of this individual cash flow in 5 years' time will be $133.82. Okay? Up to this stage, any questions? Now, one lesson that you can bring in your real life. There's time value of money. Time value of money means money depreciates. If you put your money there and do nothing, money depreciates. Am I right? For example, if you have $100 today in your pocket and you decide to do nothing, 5 years later, you will still have $100 in your pocket, right? But if others, they invest their $100 5 years ago, they will have $133 in 5 years' time, in my example. Am I right? What happened? Your money depreciates. Okay? That's why, in practice, sometimes in our life, we are forced to make some investments. You have to. You can't just leave your money there, because money depreciates. That's why if you want to buy property, you need bank to help you to get a property as soon as possible. Use bank's money, because money depreciates. You can't just tell yourself, I don't want to borrow money from the bank. Let me save for the property by myself. My annual salary is $100,000. If I can save for 20 years, 20 years later I can buy a $2 million property. You can't. 20 years later, that $2 million property will worth for $5 million. And that's how it works. Does this make sense for you? All right. The beauty and the power of compounding. Future value is all about compounded interest. But let's say the power of compounding. What happened if we have different interest rates? Now, in this example, I want to show you about a $1 example. So this is example or illustration about $1 invest today. And what is your $1 worth after 20 years' time with different interest rates? Now, if the interest is only 5% per annum, your $1 probably worth about $2 something in 20 years' time. But if the interest rate is about 10%, your $1 may worth about $6 in 20 years' time. Now, if the interest is about 15% on average, your $1 may worth $16 in 20 years' time. If the interest is 20%, your $1 will worth about $40 in 20 years' time. Now, this interest represents major investment streams. For example, 5% is the interest or return generally for banking sector. If you invest your money into a bank, bond, they probably give you 5%. Safe, low risk. If you invest your money in share market, on long run average, your annual return is roughly about 10%. If you invest your money in property, on long run average, your return is about 15%. Okay? Well, if it's over 15%, it's like other asset class. Could be hedge fund, could be you are super lucky. And that's how it looks like. And that's the meaning of investment, and that's why you should have. I always told my students, at your age, you should always buy share. Why? Because you have nothing to lose and you can wait. What do you mean you can wait? Because you are only 20 years old, or 22, 23 years old. You can wait for another 20, 30 years. You buy a share, you hold it. As long as the company is still there after 20 years, you will have your money back. A very simple calculation, right? It may be up and downs. If you buy a banking sector share or CBE or NAB, there's up and downs. But 20 or 30 years later, as long as the company is still there, you will definitely have a huge amount of return. Because in long run, on average, share market give you 10% return per annum. And that's how it works. Okay? Up to this stage, any questions? Good. If you have the opportunity to ask people who buy NAB share or Commonwealth CBE share 30, 40, 50 years ago, they will tell you about 40 years ago, NAB share, the share price is only about $5. Okay? If you talk about, for example, a very extreme case, Amazon. Last year, Amazon CEO, Aaron Bezos, briefly passed Bill Gates become the wealthiest man in the world. What happened is like the Amazon share price is about $1,000 per share. But 20 years ago, when they initially launched the market, I remember it's only about $15 per share. So in 20 years' time, its share price increased by 55 times or something, or 60 times. And that's how it works. And that's why you need to make a certain kind of investment. Okay? All right. Up to this stage, we talked about future value. As we all know, future value is a compounding process, right? Any questions? Let's talk about present value. If you look at the future value equation that we have in previous slides, all we need to do is to divide 1 plus interest rate to the power of n on both sides of the equation. What happened? If you divide 1 plus interest rate to the power of n on both sides of the equation, what happened? You will have a present value equation, right? So all you need to do, you divide 1 plus r to the power of n on both sides of the equation, you will then have present value. So present value simply equals to future value divide 1 plus r to the power of n. Am I right? And this is named as a discounting process. Because now you are trying to discount a cash flow in future to work out the present value. This is a discounting process. For example, in a year's time, the bank will give me $11. Interest rate 10%. How much money should I save into the bank today? The present value will be $11 future value divided by 1 plus 10%. Oh, I should put $10 into the bank today. This process is a discounting process. We are trying to discount future value back to time zero. In practice, when we're trying to compare cash flows, most of the case, we are trying to discount all of the cash flows back to time zero. We then compare it in present value. Why? Because it's easier to understand. It makes sense. Because it's much easier for us to talk about value today, right? We have a general idea about how $100 worth today, how $100 can purchase today. So that's how. This is a discounting process, so a reverting process of the compounding. Okay. Present value is about discounting. And then the interest rate. Sometimes in other textbook or in other financial newspapers, you may refer a word called discount rate. The discount rate is the interest rate. They are the same, interchangeable. Interest rate, discount rate, expected return, all those kind of rates, they are the same in most of the case. The reason now it's named as discount rate simply because it is a discounting factor. You are using this interest rate to discount future cash flow. So we just call it discount rate. So the same interest rate, when it's used to calculate future value, in most of the case, we call it interest rate, compound interest. When we're trying to discount future value back to today, sometimes we name this as discount rate, but they are the same, okay? Just in different context. Now, let's talk about the relationship. Now, interest rate is in your denominator. N is in your denominator, am I right? If interest rate increase, what happened to your present value? Very good. If number of years increase, or number of compounds increase, what happened to your present value? Decrease as well, okay? And that's the relationship. Ooh. Let's do one example, like what we did for future value, one by one. Assuming that a relevant discount rate is 8%, what is the present value of 1,700 payment that occurs 8 years in the future? So we know there will be $1,700 that occurs 8 years in future, and we want to know the present value of this $1,700 today. How do we work it out? We discount the future value back to today by discount this $1,700 for 8 years. So the present value of this $1,700 will be 1,700 divided by 1 plus interest, 6%, to the power of how many years? 8. Are you able to work it out? Please note that sometimes in your question it may say, assuming that a relevant interest rate is 8%. If this is the case, they are the same. Interest rate, discount rate, they are the same in this context, okay? So we put the number into the equation. We have future value, 1,700. We have 1 plus 8% to the power of 8 years. Are you able to work out the present value? And that's how much $1,700 worth at time zero. Up to this stage, any questions? Good. The power of discounting. Let's look at about $1. Now this is a reverse example, like what we did about future value. So let's assume we have $1 20 years later. Let's assume we have $1 20 years later. What is the present value of this $1 with different interest rate? As you can see, interest rate increase from 5% to 20%. The present value, what happened? Decreases, right? If your discount rate is 20%, your $1 in 20 years' time only worth like 5 cents now. That's how it works. And that's the general relationship. Now, up to this stage, I'll give you many examples about individual cash flows. Now, are you able to work out future value and present value of individual cash flows? Not hard, right? Okay. Let's say a short conclusion before we move to the next part. To conclude, cash flows that occur at different points in time can be compared or combined by converting the cash flow into the same point in time. We can either compound them for future value or discount them for present value. Do you agree? And that's how we work out future value and discounting value. These are fundamentals. I hope up to this stage, all of you guys can do future value and present value for one individual cash flow. Now, let's move to the next topic. But before that, let me give you or ask you a question. Think about it. Today, I have a project at time 0. For this project, it will give me $10 future value at year 1, $10 future value at year 2, $10 future value at year 3. Interest rate 10%. Am I able to work out the present value of this project at time 0? If so, how? Value of a project always depends on its future cash flow, right? But looks like this project have 3 cash flows in 3 years' time. Do you agree? $10, $10, $10. Well, if without study finance, you be arguing, hey, Robert, the value of this project is $30. 10 plus 10 plus 10. Is it right? No. Why? Because these 3 cash flows happen at different points in time. If we want to know the value of the project at time 0, what should we do? Very easy. Discounting each of the cash flow one by one to time 0. And then sum them together. Do you agree? And that's the process. So what can I do? I have $10 in year 3. Let me discount this $10 for 3 years. I will have the present value of this cash flow. Am I right? I have $10 in year 2. Let me discount it for 2 years. I will have the present value of that cash flow. Do you agree? I have $10 at year 1. Let me discount it for 1 year. I have the present value. Now, I have the present value of each of these 3 future cash flow at time 0. I can then sum them together. I then have the present value of the project. Is it hard? And that's how we treat cash flows in practice. It is not hard at all. As long as you understand the fundamentals, all you need to do is to either discount them into the same point in time or compound them into the same point in time, and then sum all the cash flows. And that leads us to the next topic. Future value and present value of cash flow streams. Let's talk about future value of cash flow streams first. Okay? Generally speaking, cash flow streams, 2 different types. The first one is the most common cash flow stream, named as mixed stream of cash flows. The second one named as annuity, and I will talk about annuity later. Okay? First of all, mixed stream of cash flows. Mixed stream of cash flows means a stream of cash flows, a stream of unequal cash flows, reflecting no particular pattern. Listen carefully. A stream of unequal cash flows reflect no particular pattern. For example, there is a project. In year 1, it gave me $10. In year 2, it gave me $20. In year 3, it gave me $5. In year 4, it gave me $100. It is a stream of cash flow, unequal cash flows, with no particular pattern. And that is called a mixed stream of cash flow. What should we do about the mixed stream of cash flow? Let's say this example. A very easy example, very similar to the example we've discussed. When we treat mixed stream of cash flow, you want future value? Okay. In this graph, let's do it step by step. CF means cash flow. CF1 means cash flow 1. CF2 means cash flow 2. CF3 means cash flow 3, etc., etc. Means cash flow happened at time 1, time 2, time 3, time 4, etc., etc. Okay? Now, we want the total value of all those cash flows. Apparently, we can't sum them together, right? Because all of those cash flows happen at different points in time, so we can't simply sum them together. Then what should we do? We need to compound all of those cash flows into the same points in time. Some point in future called time t. Do you agree? By doing that, for example, we compound cash flow today to time t. We compound cash flow at year 1 to time t, etc., etc. We will have the future value of each of the individual cash flow at time t. Do you agree? We then able to add them together. Sum all of them together, we have a future value of this cash flow stream. If you don't understand it at this stage or still get a little bit confused, we have example soon. Okay? Any questions? Don't worry too much about this equation here if you don't understand. I'll briefly explain it. Basically, this sign here means summation. Mathematically, we want to represent this process. To represent this process, we need to use summation sign. It means summation, cash flows times its corresponding compounding factor. Okay? But if you don't understand this equation, that's absolutely okay. All you need to know is how we treat this cash flow stream. What we did, very easy. We compound each of the individual cash flow to time t. We then sum it together. That's all we need to do. Any questions? Good. Let's do an example and see how to work it out. It's not hard, this example. Let's calculate the future value at the end of 5 years of this mixed cash flow stream invested at 9% interest rate per annum. So what do we want? We have 5 cash flows. Do you agree? We have 5 cash flows. We want the future value of this cash flow stream at the end of year 5. We know interest rate. Do you agree? So all we need to do, we need to compound each of the individual cash flow to year 5. We then sum it together. Am I right? How do we compound those cash flows? How to compound? Let's work it out one by one, step by step. So first of all, your first cash flow is $400. Am I right? Now look, I want to compound this cash flow, $400 to year 5. Do you agree? So I want to compound it to year 5. How many compound periods? From year 1 to year 5, how many compound periods? If you are not sure, let's count it. How to count it? Easy. Where is your cash flow? 1, right? From year 1 to year 2, 1 period. Year 2 to year 3, 1 period. Year 3 to year 4, 1 period. Year 4 to year 5, 1 period. You have 4 compound periods. Do you agree? So the future value of this $400 in year 5 should equal to 400 times 1 plus 9% to the power of 4. Do you agree? And that's how to work it out. Any questions? Yes. Yes, you will have formula on the final exam. You will. Okay? But most importantly, you have to understand the logic behind it. Without understanding, formula itself is meaningless. It's just a bunch of numbers. Okay? Most importantly, I want you to understand this process. Why and how. See, for example, you have formula in the exam. The formula will be future value equals to present value times 1 plus interest to the power of n, where n is number of compounds, right? But you need to count n. You need to figure out how much is n. Am I right? If you don't know how much is n, what's the point of this equation? You can't work out the value anyway. Does this make sense for you? Okay, good. Intuitively, if we figure out how to do the future value of 400, what about the $800 in year 2? The $800 in year 2, what should we do? We want to compound this $800 and get the future value at time 5. From year 2 to year of time 5, how many compound periods? N equal to 3. Intuitively, you can work out 500, 400. And most importantly, for this $300, this $300 is in year 5. Do you need to work out the future value of this $300? No need, right? Let's see the calculation process, and that's how it looks like. $400, what should we do? 400 times 1 plus interest to the power of 4. You have a future value at year 5. $800 times 1 plus 9% to the power of 3. You have the interest at, you have the future value at 5. $500 times 1 plus interest rate to the power of 2. $400 times 1 plus interest rate to the power of 1. And then finally, you don't need to do anything about the 300 at the end. Question, by doing that, how many future values do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Am I right? We have future value for each of the individual cash flow. Now, all of them are at the same point in time. What should we do next? You sum them together. You will then work out the future value of this cash flow stream, which is about $2,930. Does this make sense for you? That's how it works. For a mixed stream of cash flow, you can always do it in this way. Any questions up to this stage? Good. Let's cover about one more topic, then we have the break. And that's how we work out the mixed stream of cash flow, and that's how we derive the equation, but you don't need to know this. If you are interested, you can read these slides, but it's not compulsory, okay? Most importantly, you need to understand how we work it out. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Before that, do you guys remember in slide 18, we talk about the future value of cash flow streams. There's 2 different scenarios, right? First scenario is mixed stream, second scenario called annuity. Now, let's talk about annuity. A lot of students feel scary about annuity, but in fact, it's very easy. Before we talk about annuity, let me talk about the meaning of annuity. Why do we need such a thing called annuity? Let's recall our example, my previous example, the example we just did. So basically, for a mixed stream of cash flow, we have 5 cash flows. Unfortunately, we have to work out the future value of each of them one by one. Am I right? And sum it together. No matter who's going to do this question, you guys or me, or even the smartest guy in the world, you have to do it in this way. You have to work out cash flow one by one. There's no other approach. Takes you a lot of time, isn't it? What about in practice, we have 100 cash flows. We want to know the future value of this 100 cash flow cash stream. What happened? You have to do it one by one for 100 times, and then sum it together. Even you have Excel, you can drag it, but you still need to enter it for 100 times. Am I right? What about if you have 1,000 cash flow, daily cash flows? You have to do it one by one for 1,000 times. Well, in this approach, it's very complex. But the beauty of finance is, as I told you guys, when we talk about investment decision, all of the future cash flows are based on our estimation. We are trying to estimate our cash flow. We don't need to make our life hard. We don't have to estimate stupid cash flows. We can try to figure out a much simple way, which is called annuity. Now, what is annuity and why annuity is good? Annuity, listen carefully, it is a special case of mixed stream cash flows. It is still cash flow stream, okay? Just with some special characteristics. Annuity means a stream of equal periodical cash flows. Equal periodical cash flows means same amount of cash flows and same time interval. For example, today is time 0. In year 1, there is a cash flow $10. Year 2, cash flow $10. Year 3, cash flow $10. That's it. In this case, it is an annuity. Equal periodical cash flow. Equal amount of cash flows, $10, and same time interval. Do you agree? This is annuity. For example, today I have 10 cash flow. Year 1, $10, year 2, $10, year 3, $10, year 4, year 5, year 6, year 7, till year 10, all $10. This is an annuity. Equal amount of cash flow, equal time interval. Am I right? It is an annuity. Now, what is the beauty of annuity? Without using annuity equation, if we have a cash flow stream like that, we want to work out future value or present value, we have to compound each of them one by one, or discount each of them one by one, then sum it together. Am I right? Takes you a lot of time because you need to do it for 10 times. Do you agree? But with annuity equation, we don't need to do that. We can simply do it in one go by using one equation. Now, listen carefully. You don't need to memorize this equation. This equation will be provided on your exam formula sheet. You have this equation in your lecture slides for your apply homework, and you will have this equation in your examination. Okay? But importantly, you need to be able to identify whether the underlying cash flow is an annuity or not. Does this make sense for you? Okay. So this is an annuity definition. An annuity is a series of cash flows of equal amount, equal time interval for a certain period of time. Okay? Certain period of time. Now, ordinary annuity versus annuity due. The last bit of definition before we move to simple examples. Once you confirm this cash flow stream is an annuity, then you need to differentiate whether it is an ordinary annuity or an annuity due. How? Very easy. Ordinary annuity start at the end of the year. Annuity due start right now. Very simple example. Today, I'm standing at time 0. The first cash flow at the end of year 1, $10. Then year 2, $10. Then year 3, $10. This is an ordinary annuity. Because first cash flow happened at the end of the year. Get it? The first cash flow happened at right now. $10 at time 0. $10 at year 1. $10 at year 2. This is an annuity due because it starts right now. So to differentiate annuity due and ordinary annuity, step 1, you have to make sure it is an annuity. Step 2, when it is started. That's it. In practice, most of the case, we are talking about ordinary annuity. Okay? But both equations will be provided. And that's the annuity due equation, also ordinary annuity equation for future value. This equation will be provided in your exam. We do have annuity equation for present value and for present value. Sorry, for future value and present value. And that's how it looks like for future value. if you look at the cash flow line, PMT means payment, because we talk about equal amount of payments. So PMT means payment. PMT equal to PMT equal to PMT means equal amount of payments. Am I right? Start at year 1, not year 0, means ordinary annuity. Am I right? Future value of our ordinary annuity equation is this one. PMT, payments, interest, and number of compounds. Let's do one simple example. Assume today there is our ordinary annuity. Payment, $10. 5 payments, N equal to 5. Interest rate, 10%. What is the future value of this ordinary annuity? The future value of this ordinary annuity will then equal to $10 payments times 1 plus 10% to the power of 5 payments minus 1 divided by 10%. So as long as you have payments, interest, number of payments, all you need to do is to plug the number into the equation. I know this equation looks scary and students hate this equation. It's not hard at all. All you need to do is to understand the meaning of those numbers in this equation, or character in this equation, and then read your question carefully. That's all you need to do. Up to this stage, any questions? Good. We do have examples here about one future value ordinary annuity. And as you can look at this example, in this example, the cash flow stream, 1,000 in year 1, 1,000 in year 2, 1,000 in year 3, year 5, year 4. 5 cash flows. Am I right? First of all, are they equal amount of payments? Yes or no? Equal payments. Do you agree? Quick, yes. Second, what about time interval? Do we have equal time interval? Yes, right? Third, 5 cash flows. Limited amount of time, right? Is it an annuity? Quick. It is an annuity, right? Is that ordinary annuity or annuity due? Ordinary annuity, because you have nothing times 0. So all you need to do is to work out the future value of this ordinary annuity by applying the equation in the previous slide. Do you agree? Now, the equation is here. The equation is here. How much is your payment? How much is your interest? 7%, right? How much is number of payments? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, do you agree? Are you able to work out the future value? Are you able to work it out then? Is it much easier than the approach we learned before? Because without annuity equation, what should you do? Without annuity equation, what should you do? Look at this timeline. We need to work out it one by one. Am I right? So I actually did it step by step. Without annuity equation, you have to work out the future value step by step and then sum it together. But with annuity equation, you can simply calculate it in one go. And most importantly, if you know how to use your financial calculator, you only need to press few buttons. Your calculator teaches you how to do annuity, but using few buttons there. Okay? About future value of annuity due, ordinary annuity, up to this stage, any questions? Any questions? Good. The next slide is the equation for annuity due. I will leave this for you for practice purpose. As you can see, if you read those things, the only difference between ordinary annuity and annuity due is that there's a 1 plus R term at the end. But the intuition and application of the equation will be the same. For example, step 1, you need to identify whether it is an annuity or not. Step 2, if it is an annuity, whether it's an ordinary annuity or annuity due. Ordinary annuity start at time 1. Annuity due start right now. Am I right? And then you apply the equation respectively. And of course, both equations will be provided to you in any circumstance. For apply homework, you can refer to your slides or book. For final examination, there will be exam formula sheet. Okay? But most importantly, you need to be able to identify those cash flows. And yes, we do have an example about annuity due. You can refer it by yourself. Now, before we have the break, let me ask you a question. You can think about it during the break. Think about this question. 2 questions. The first one you can answer me right now. So today I have a cash flow stream. Listen carefully. Year 0, nothing. Year 1, $10. Year 2, $10. Year 3, nothing. Year 4, $10. Is it an annuity? No, right? Because not equal amount of cash flow. Okay, second question. Listen carefully. Year 1, so we start at time 0. Year 1, $10. Year 1.5, $10. Year 2, $10. Year 3, $10. Is it an annuity? Why? Different time interval, right? Very good. Now, last one. We have cash flow stream. Year 0.5, $10. Year 1.5, $10. Year 2.5, $10. Is it an annuity? So we start at time 0. Year 0.5, $10. Year 1.5, $10. Year 2.5, $10. Is it an annuity? Let's have a break and talk about this question later, okay? It's 8 past, so please come back at 20 past, all right? Let's have a 12 minutes break. All right, settle down. Let's start for the second half. Yeah. Before we have the break, I'll ask you a question, right? I said, what about if today I'm standing at time 0, and the first cash flow happened at 0.5 year, and second cash flow happened at year 1.5, then third cash flow happened at year 2.5. Is it an annuity? Yes or no? No? Why not? Why not? Huh? So she said no because it's in the middle of the year. Do you agree? Is it an annuity? Why? Okay, so we have many different arguments, mainly centered on the time. First of all, this is a very tricky question. Why will I ask you this question to you? This is funny. Back to, I think about 10 or 9 years ago. At that time, I was still working at Monash University. And we decided to design a mid-semester test for the students. And this is the mid-semester test question we are using. And surprisingly, 40% of the students can't do this question. 40%. I was real surprised, because 40% of the students think it is not an annuity. It is an annuity. It is an annuity. Why? Is it equal time? Is it equal cash flow? Equal amount of cash flow, right? Is it equal time interval? I'm talking about time interval. Time interval between what? Between cash flows. Do we have equal time interval? From first cash flow to second cash flow is 1 year. From second cash flow to third cash flow is 1 year. Now, your question is mainly, hey Robert, it starts at year 0.5. From year 0 to year 0.5 is only 0.5 year. Well, who told you it have to start at year 0? This cash flow means start at year negative 0.5. Equal time interval. Okay, now this is a question that you can put into consideration. As long as it's equal amount and equal time interval, it is an annuity. Now that's the first question. Just because of that, we won't have so many students fail. The reason I will tell you later on, and you need to solve this question for me, all right? You need to teach me how to do this question after we study the next topic. Before we have the break, we talked about future value of cash flow stream. We talked about the future value of a mixed stream of cash flow. We talked about future value of annuity. We talked about future value of ordinary annuity and annuity due, and all of the equations are summarized in slide 30. So if you want to do your apply homework, you can refer to these slides as for equation. One more thing I should also remind you. Your apply homework, first one, start from today. You have 2 weeks window to finish it. Now, I do understand I have few students have trouble in logging into Applia. If you do have trouble in logging into Applia, please do not leave after class. Come and show me. Let me to try to solve it first. If I cannot solve it, I will send it to Cengage team. Okay? I'll write email today and send it to Cengage team. And we try to solve the issue as soon as possible. Now, present value of cash flow streams. We talked about future value, now let's move to present value, and present value is very interesting. I saved the best to the last. As I told you guys, in most of the scenario in practice, when we're trying to combine cash flows, instead of using future value, we prefer to discount them to time 0, present time, and then sum up their present value. Why? Because present value makes sense to us. Because if you want to know the value of $100 today, you have a general idea. You know $100, you can spend it for 2 days. You can buy 10 different, probably 10 dinner, I don't know. You can probably have a basket of vegetables or etc., etc. You have a general idea about this $100. But you don't really have a general idea about $100 in 100 years' time, right? So that's why in most of the case, we prefer to discount cash flow to present value. Similarly, just like future value, we will have present value of mixed cash flow stream. We will have present value of annuity, but most importantly, we will have a special item called perpetuity. I will discuss about perpetuity at the last. First of all, example, present value of mixed stream of cash flows. Exactly the same as future value. Nothing special. Look at this one here. This example, we have 5 different cash flows. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. Am I right? Now, all these cash flows, as you can see, uneven cash flows. Am I right? Yes, they have same time interval, but what happened? The amount of cash flows are not equal to each other. Do you agree? To this end, this is a mixed stream of cash flow. Now, we want the present value of this cash flow stream. Intuitively, what should we do? What should we do? We want the present value of this cash flow stream. What should we do? We discount each of the cash flow back to time 0. Am I right? We then have 5 discounted cash flow. We then sum all of them together. Do you agree? Look at the cash flow at year 5. Look at cash flow at year 5. For the cash flow at year 5, we want its present value at time 0. What should we do? We discount it for 5 years. We know the future value 3,000. The present value of this 3,000 will be 3,000 divided by 1 plus interest rate to the power of 5. Do you agree? Which is in the equation on the top. Am I right? Now we have the cash flow at year 4, $4,000. What should we do with this $4,000? We discount it by 4 years. Do you agree? 4,000 divided by 1 plus interest rate to the power of 4. We then have cash flow at year 3, discounted for 3 years. We then discount it for 2 years for year 2, 1 year for year 1. We then have 5 discounted cash flow. Am I right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 discounted cash flow. We then sum them together. We then have the present value of this cash flow stream. Do you agree? Is it hard? It's not hard, isn't it? Up to this stage, any questions? Okay. What about if we do have a cash flow at year 0.5? You discount it by half a year. How to discount it by half a year? Let's assume the cash flow is $10. It's just equal to $10 divided by 1 plus interest to the power of 5. That's it. Does this make sense for you? So up to this stage, any questions? Okay. And that is the present value of mixed stream of cash flow for present value approach. And again, in these slides, we have an equation about how to derive the summation sign, but you don't need to know about this. For the students who are interested in equation, you can read these slides. Otherwise, just simply ignore it. All right. Let's move to annuity. Similarly, just like what we did for future value, we will have the similar stuff for present value. So first of all, we need to identify whether the underlying cash flow stream is annuity or not. And then we need to identify whether it is an ordinary annuity or an annuity due. All of this we've discussed in the first half of the class, right? So I don't want to spend time on this. Just let you know how the present value of annuity equation looks like. Okay? Now look at, oh sorry, wrong slides. Yeah. Now look at this example here, and let's do it step by step. In this example, first of all, how many cash flows? Look at the cash flow line. How many cash flows? 5, right? How much are they? 7,000, right? Are they equal amount of payments? Do we have same time interval? So is it an annuity? Yes or no? Good. Time 0, do we have cash flow at time 0? So is it ordinary annuity or annuity due? Very good. Ordinary annuity. To this end, we need to work out the present value of this ordinary annuity. Now you may be wondering, hey Robert, what's the equation? The present value of our ordinary annuity equation is in this blue box. Can you see that? Again, equation will be provided. Again, after many times of practice, sometimes you may even remember the equation. But let's look at this equation. In this equation, PV means present value of the cash flow stream. PMT, again, annual equal payments, right? So PMT is the payment. In some textbook, it's named as cash flow. Some textbook named as PMT. In this textbook, we're trying to differentiate cash flow and PMT because cash flow is much more broader. Represent all of the cash flows each year. It can be equal or it can be uneven. PMT represent even cash flows. Okay? R in that equation is your discount rate, interest rate. Do you agree? N is your number of payments, which is 5. R is 8%. R is 8% interest. PMT is 7,000. N is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Plug the number into the equation. Are you able to work out the present value? Are you able to work out the present value of this cash flow stream? Do you agree? That's how to work it out. Now let's verify it. How to verify our solution? Easy. As I told you guys, annuity is just a special case of a mixed stream of cash flow, which means for all of the cash flow stream calculation, you can always apply the mixed cash flow stream method. That is, you can always discount each of them one by one, then sum them together. I call this as a stupid approach because you just need to do it step by step. But you can use it to verify it, isn't it? Use to verify it, what should we do? We just need to discount each of the cash flow back to time 0, like what we did in the previous example. Do you agree? And then you have present value of each of these 5 cash flows at time 0. Do you agree? And then you sum them together. And as you can see, the solutions are exactly the same. Get it? Please note that this demonstration has a very important implication. Listen my word carefully. For all of those kind of calculations, you can always use the mixed cash flow stream method, the stupid approach. Which means, in practice, or even in your final exam, if you are not sure whether this is annuity, if sometimes you even forgot about annuity equation, or if you are not sure how to apply ordinary annuity or annuity due equation, doesn't matter. You don't have to do it in annuity way. You can always do it one by one, am I right? Do you guys still remember the example I told you guys? During the break, I told you one of the question, time 0, cash flow is 0. Year 0.5, cash flow is $10. Year 1.5, cash flow is $10. Year 2.5, cash flow is $10. Back to many, many years ago, I have more than 40 students fail on this question. Some of them are not able to identify this is actually an annuity. Some of the students, they knew it is an annuity, but they just don't know how to apply it in annuity equation because it's very different from the example they did. If this is our approach, or if this is the question, you don't have to do it by using annuity equation. Why can't you just discount it one by one, sum it together? Am I right? And that's the beauty of finance. So we do have an annuity, but I told you guys, the reason we have this annuity, because in practice, it's much easier for us to do budgeting. We can estimate, or we can purposely design our cash flow as an annuity for future investments. So it's easy for us to do estimation. But no one forces you to use annuity equation for calculations. So be smart. Okay, think about it. You can always do it in two different approaches. Especially in examination scenario, I fully understand sometimes students just totally go blank. Oh, I can't remember the future value of ordinary annuity equation. I can't differentiate, even I have the formula in front of me, which one is ordinary annuity? Or what is annuity due? Or is this annuity due or ordinary annuity? I can't remember, I'm struggling. Don't be. If you really can't do it, if you really don't have confidence about applying the annuity equation, do it step by step. All you need to do is to discount each of the cash flow one by one. I'm pretty sure you can do that. Am I right? That's easy, right? You won't forget that. And then sum them together. That's easy as well. Does this make sense for you? So that's the illustration about how to use the equations. Of course, if you are able to apply equation, it's much easier because it saves you a lot of time. We talked about ordinary annuity. Similarly, we will talk about annuity due. And again, annuity due, that's how it looks like. First cash flow happened at time 0. And again, there will be annuity due equation. And again, in exam or other scenario, all this formula will be provided to you. So all you need to do is to plug the number into the equation, but write the equation. Okay. That's basically 90% of the stuff we need to cover this week before we move to next topic. Up to this stage, any questions? Any questions? Very good. Let's move to the next one, which is very interesting. Perpetuity. Perpetuity is very easy. I will give you a classical example as well. So at the very beginning, we talked about mixed stream of cash flow, right? I then told you annuity is a special case of mixed cash flow streams. Am I right? Perpetuity is a very special case of annuity. Now, first of all, what is an annuity? Equal amount of cash flow, equal time interval, and fixed period of time. Am I right? But what about if we do have an annuity, but it lasts forever? Infinity. What about if we do have an annuity, equal amount of cash flow, equal time interval, but it lasts forever? For example, today there is a project. This project will give you $1 every year forever. What is the value of this project? If this is the case, it is named as perpetuity. Okay? Please note that only present value have a perpetuity. Because we are talking about a cash flow lasts forever, infinity, so only have present value. You don't have a future value of something lasts forever. Right? There's no future value for something lasts forever. There's no future value for infinity. Okay, that's about perpetuity. And how perpetuity looks like? Just in this blue box. That's how we work out perpetuity. The value of a perpetuity simply equals to payment divided by interest. That's it. That's it. So simple. For example, today there is a perpetuity. $1 every year, lasts forever, interest rate 10%. What is the present value of this perpetuity? Payment, $1. Interest rate 10%. The perpetuity simply equal to 1 divided by 10%, which is $10. That's it. That's it. Is it hard? And that's about perpetuity. Up to this stage, any questions? I may have something interesting for you. Let's do one example, a real-life example, because perpetuity is quite popular in practice because of the nature of this product, because it lasts forever. And that is a true scenario, but are guessing the number, okay? The number might be slightly different from the reality because we don't know the exact number. So what happened is in 2008, we have something called global financial crisis, GFC. And global financial crisis is mainly about default risk. And when you're talking about default risk and trust or something, the bank face big difficulty, or investment banks. The reason is quite simple because all of the investors, they want the bank to give their money back. Makes sense, right? Because if you are in global financial crisis or in crisis time, you want to get your money back. You don't trust anyone, right? Now what happened is we have leading investment banks. The leading investment banks, for example, some of them, like Lehman Brothers, if you heard about it, it went bankruptcy. Why is it went bankruptcy? Because they don't have enough money to pay or to pay back their investors. That's what we've learned in week 1. Because everyone wants to cash out from Lehman Brothers. They just don't have enough money. But not only Lehman Brothers face this issue, Merrill Lynch, Goldman Sachs, Citibank, they all face this kind of issue. Well, they're trying to solve this issue. Some of them trying to borrow money from the government, but the government don't have enough money as well. So the government try to save some of the bank purposely. Okay, so American government, they gave Citibank some money, they gave ERC some money, etc., etc. But funny thing is, the Goldman Sachs, they don't have money, but they do need money. At that point in time, they need cash, a lot of cash. Not asset, cash. See, today we talk about Bill Gates, we talk about Aaron Bezos. We know their total wealth is about $100 billion, but in total assets, not cash, right? Is the share worth for $100 billion, but it means nothing in crisis time because it's share price. It's not cash. There's only one man in the world do have a lot of money in his pocket. His name is Warren Buffett. So what happened is, that's a true story. So to give Warren Buffett a phone call, I need cash. I need a lot of money. So how much? Basically, is asking, I want $5 billion from you. $5 billion from you. In exchange, every year I can give you $500 million forever. So this is a classical example about the perpetuity. Now, I'll change this example a little bit, just give you a rough idea, okay? So let's see how this example works, and I will continue the story with you. So in 2008, Warren Buffett purchased a perpetuity preferred share from Goldman Sachs. Last forever, perpetuity. On this agreement, this share had no maturity, last forever. And every year, they have to pay $500 million to him, every year. Assuming that Buffett wanted a 10% annual return on his investment. And then, what will be the purchase price? This 10% is my assumption. I don't know what's actually the return he's asking, okay? But roughly should be around that range. If this is the case, it is a perpetuity, right? $500 million every year, lasts forever, 10% per year. Then, what is the purchase price, or what is the value of this perpetuity? It should be 500 million divided by 10%, which will be $5 billion. What does that mean? Which means in 2008, Warren Buffett will give Goldman Sachs $5 billion in cash. And later on, after that, every year, forever, the company will pay him $500 million. Forever. And that's a lot of money. Okay? And that's a classical example about perpetuity and how it's going to be used. All right? Generally speaking, a lot of preferred share for large corporations are perpetuity, but this will be further discussed in week 4. Up to this stage, do you know how to calculate perpetuity? Any questions about perpetuity? Good. All right. Present value of accruing perpetuity. This slide is just for your information. It's not examinable. Okay, this slide is not examinable. I'll leave this slide here. It just let you know that we are able to use, or we are able to have an equation for a growth perpetuity. Okay, these slides will be further discussed in week 4 because when we're trying to calculate share price, we're assuming share price is a growing perpetuity. So the growing perpetuity idea will be bring out in week 4 again. But that's how this calculation or equation looks like. You don't need to worry too much about it at this stage because in week 4 we will discuss it again. But if you want to know for growing perpetuity, the only difference between growing perpetuity and perpetuity is that you will put, you will put a growth rate in the denominator. So perpetuity, you only have payment and discount rate. Now you will have a growth rate in the denominator. That's all you need to know. The example, you can read it by yourself, but don't worry too much about it in this week because in week 4, we were dealing with it for the entire week. Okay? All right. Up to this stage, that's basically 95% of the stuff we need to cover. Any questions? So at the very beginning of the class, we talked about individual cash flow. We then talked about present value and future value of an individual cash flow. We then moved to cash flow streams. We start from future value of a mixed stream of cash flows. We then talk about annuity of future value. We then talk about present value of mixed stream of cash flows. We then talked about the annuity of a present value of annuity and present value of perpetuity. And that's basically most of the stuff we need to learn as the fundamental for this week. Any questions? So far, as you may realize, all of the examples that we are going through this week, the examples I'm using on the seminar, I'm talking about annual cash flows. Am I right? I'm always talking about cash flow annually. Year 1, year 2, year 3, cash flow annually. Because for calculation purpose, it's much easier for you to understand. But what about if the cash flow is compounding more frequently than annually? What about if the cash flow do not compound annually? Instead, it compounds semi-annually, which means it gets compounded twice a year. What about it's compounded monthly? What about if compounded quarterly, daily? So the last things we need to deal with is named as compounding more frequently than annually. Again, this part is not hard at all. Okay, I will show you why it is not hard. When things is compounding more frequently than annually, you just need one more item named as M. M means compounding frequency or compound periods. Compounding frequency per year or for each of the year, how many times it gets compounded. For example, today, if I talking about individual cash flow, I put $10 into the bank. The annual interest rate is 10%. Listen carefully. Annual interest rate is 10%. What is the future value of this investment at the end of the year if it's compound annually? As we all know, the future value will be 100 times 1 plus 10%. That's it. Am I right? But what about if it's compound semi-annually? Which means it compounded twice a year. Instead of pay you 1 annual interest, the bank will pay you 2 interest. One of them is happened in the middle of the year. Think about it. If one of the interest happened at the middle of the year, this interest will have interest on interest for the second half of the year. Do you agree? Or simple about it in a simple way. I put $100 into the bank. Annual interest rate 10%. But it compounds semi-annually, which means for each half of the year, the interest will be 5%. Do you agree? Which means for the first half of the year, I will receive $5 interest rate. Do you agree? Since first half of the year, I have $5 interest. This $5 interest will get compounded for the second half of the year as well. Am I right? So in the second half of the year, in addition to the $5 interest on principal, I will also have interest on interest from the first half of the year. And that's why even we are still talking about future value for 1 year, now the future value will not be $110. Am I right? How much is the future value? Now we have number of compounding frequency M equal to 2. Do you agree? Annual interest rate equal to 10%. Do you agree? So 10% divided by 2, 5%. To the power of M times N. N is always number of years. 1 year, am I right? M is 2. So in my example, it will be what? $100 times 1 plus annual interest rate 10% divided by M, which is equal to 2, to the power of 2 times 1, which is 2. We have more examples coming. Does this make sense for you? That's how it works. Let's leave the continuous compounding for a while. Let's do more example. But you can see from my example, the more frequent the compound period, the larger the future value, isn't it? Think about my example. If it's only get compounded once, $100 will be $110 at the end of the year. Am I right? But if it's get compounded twice, I have $5 interest for the first half of the year. This $5 will be compounded. Am I right? Which means this $5 will give me interest rate or interest payment for the second half of the year as well. Overall, the future value of the investment increase. So the more frequent the compound, the higher the future value. Does this make sense for you? If you have quarterly compounding, the future value will be higher than than semi-annual compounding. If you have monthly compounding, it will be higher than quarterly. If you have daily, it will be higher than monthly. But let's see how it looks like before we talk about continuous. Example. Future value at the end of 2 years of $112,500 at 5% interest. Now, this example about individual cash flow, but compound more frequently than annually. Think about it. Previously, when we talk about future value, if it is compound annually, the future value of this cash flow is very easy. It's equal to 125,000 times 1 plus interest rate to the power of 2. That's it. Because it's for 2 years. Am I right? But now, what about if it is semi-annual compounding? If it's semi-annual compounding, M equal to 2. Am I right? If M equal to 2, you put M into the equation. So if you look at the equation here, M equal to 2, right? When it is semi-annual compounding, oh, sorry. Oh no, this one is not working well. When it is semi-annual compounding, M equal to 2. So interest divided by M. Do you agree? M times N. N is number of years. 2 years, N is equal to 2. M is equal to 2. Now, M times N equal to 4. So you now can work out the future value by doing it that way. How much is it? $137,976. Any questions about this calculation? What about if it is quarterly compounding? What about if it is quarterly compounding? Huh? M equal to 4. Do you agree? If M equal to 4, you divide your interest rate. Remember, this interest rate is always annual interest rate, okay? You divide it by 4. M times N will then be 4 times 2, which will be 8. And what's the future value? $138.60. Is it higher or lower than semi-annual compounding? Higher, right? The more compound periods, the higher the future value. Now, some of you guys may be wondering, hey Robert, you talked about semi-annual compounding. You talk about quarterly compounding. Now we know the logic. So we just divide by 2 for semi-annual, divide by 4 for quarterly, divide by 12 for monthly, divide by 360 for daily. Question, what about if it is compounded every second, every minute? If this is the case, it's named as continuous compounding. If it is continuous compounding, mathematically, we will use something called exponential, E. Mathematically, we will use exponential for continuous compounding. And in your calculator, there's supposed to be a button named as exponential, either they labeled as E or EXP. Okay? So that's for continuous compounding. And don't worry too much about the calculation part. I won't give you any calculation required for continuous compounding. I just want to show you how it looks like. And I'll give you a classical example about continuous compounding. So if you apply continuous compounding equation, for the same example here, as you can see, the future value is even larger. Am I right? Do you agree? Because the more frequent the compound periods, the higher the future value. When you use continuous compounding, it has its highest value. Up to this stage, any questions? Any questions? Look, today I'll go through a lot of stuff with you. But at the end of the day, it requires tons of practice. You need to do the practice, practice, and practice. All right? Just for this unit itself, I am much better than you guys. That's something I can say, right? But back to 15 years ago, when I studied this unit, I do practice every day. Practice, practice, practice. I know it sounds easy. When I went through all the examples together with you, it's not hard. Finance, accounting is not hard at all. Even my 6-year-old brother, he can do it. Even I explain this to a 6-year-old kid, he can understand what I'm talking about. But the difference here is you require practice and application. Once it's up to practice and application is entirely different story. You need to spend a lot of time on practice. A lot of time. I used to be a student just like you guys. I used to have a lot of good friends as well. Well, still my friends, hopefully. But what happened in the final examination, we have different marks. Some of them perform really, really good. Some of them perform terribly bad. But you can tell even before the examination, I know who's going to perform good. Those ones spend tons of time in library. They will pass, they will have really good marks. And for those who leave everything to the last minute, I can tell you, I guarantee you will fail. Because finance and accounting is different. With all due respect for some theory unit, you may be able to leave it to last minute, trying to memorize everything and trying to write up something in the final examination. But finance or accounting units, if you really don't understand the theory behind it, without the practice, you don't even know what to write. Am I right? Practice is very important. Don't try to think that, oh, I'm so smart. This is so easy for me. I can do everything. You won't. Trust me. I taught at least 10,000 students in my life. I taught at least 10,000 students. Okay, those who did well in this unit spend tons of time. Those who think they can pass the unit definitely will fail this unit. You need to spend time on this unit. It's not hard, but it requires practice. Just like accounting, when people explain to you what is consolidation, what is financial statement, it's not hard. But if I want you to draw this financial statement for me, you can't do it. I want you to prepare a cash flow statement for me. You can't do it. Isn't it? So think about it, all right? After this unit, what I hope you guys can do, go back, trying to work out each of the examples individually by yourself. Trying to work it out by yourself. Don't read the solution and pretend you understand. Trying to work out the questions without read the solution and see whether you are able to do it or not. And that's how it works out. When you see an equation, yes, we all know once we plug the number into the equation, we can solve the solution, but please plug the number into the equation. Try to solve it. Okay? Some of the students come to me before the exam, hey Robert, I know this is the equation. I understand the question entirely. Once I plug the number into the equation, I can work out the solution. I should be okay with my final exam. And then 2 weeks later, he failed the exam, come back to me, I can't do the exam. Why? Because you only have 2 hours in your final exam. Right? You don't have 20 hours in your final exam, only 2 hours. Efficiency is quite important as well, isn't it? So that's how this unit is structured. That's how the university is structured. And you have to pass the exam to pass the unit. I don't want you guys to make the same mistake other students made. Make sure that you do practice. This is very, very, very important. Unless you think you're even better than me. Otherwise, please do the practice, because that's what I did. Even today, I'm learning this stuff before the class. I practice. I taught this stuff for like 30 trimesters, but I still prepared the unit before I attend the class, because without practice, I can't teach. Of course, I understand those stuff, okay? But you need practice. This is very, very important. Otherwise, you will realize next week you forgot about everything, okay? All right. Let's see the beauty of compounding for different examples. So in your textbook, we do have other examples. When we talk about monthly compounding, when we talk about semi-annual compounding, we will have different value. And for different value, you will realize the more frequent the compound period, the higher the future value. Now, up to this stage, we basically covered 99% of this week's topic, except one slight things. We'll leave you to the last. All those examples, you can read your textbook for details. Let's talk about the last one, bank. I put the last topic here to make sure that you understand what's going on in practice. In practice, there's something called stated annual rate, and there is something called effective annual rate. That is mainly because of the compound or compound periods. For example, the bank will normally give you a stated annual rate. So what is the stated annual rate? It is the contractual annual rate of interest charged by a lender or promised by a borrower. So today, you went to the bank, you want to buy a property. You want to buy a property, of course, you need to borrow money from the bank. You want to borrow money from the bank, of course, the bank will give you an interest rate, right? The bank will give you a stated interest rate. Listen carefully. This is an annual interest rate stated by the bank. Such interest rate is an annual interest rate. Such interest rate only works for you if you pay your mortgage annually. Get it? But in practice, you will never pay your mortgage annually because the bank won't allow you to pay it annually. Get it? You can either pay it monthly or fortnightly, but not annually. Get it? Question. The bank gives you a stated annual rate, but in practice, you actually pay your mortgage monthly. If this is the case, are you paying more or less than the bank stated? Think. The answer will definitely be more because bank won't lose money, right? Why? Because if you pay money, the money is based on the interest calculation, right? If you pay monthly, which means you pay more frequently than annually, which means you get compounded more frequently than annually. Am I right? If you talk about the value you're going to pay, if this is a scenario, you can simply imagine, okay, now I'm going to pay my mortgage more frequently than annually. Then we have a second item called effective annual rate. A lot of people will ask, hey, Robert, if this is the case, what is the real annual rate of interest we actually paid or earned, reflecting the impact of compound frequency? Does this make sense for you? I'll explain further, but give you one example, okay? This is called effective annual rate. Effective annual rate is not a rate at all. Effective annual rate is only for calculation purpose. Effective annual rate is not a standard rate. It's not a stated rate. It is nothing. It's never going to be given by the bank. Effective annual rate only represents the annual rate of interest you actually paid to reflect your investment. Does this make sense for you? I will show you and I will explain. For example, today I borrow $100 from the bank. Hypothetically, okay? I borrow $100 from the bank. The bank stated interest rate is 10%. Based on the bank stated interest rate, in that year, the entire interest rate I need to pay to the bank is $10. Do you agree? But in fact, this will only happen if the bank only asks me to pay once a year. Do you agree? In fact, the bank won't ask me to pay it once a year. The bank will ask me to pay it monthly. Do you agree? If I pay it monthly, the actual interest payments that I pay to the bank will be more than $10. It could be, listen carefully, $10.25. And that is my actual interest payment to the bank because of the impact of compounding. Get it? Because I paid actual interest rate of 10.25 my effective annual rate is 10.25%. Does this make sense for you? Effective annual rate is a rate reflect my true interest payments. And that's how effective annual rate worked for in practice. Does this make sense for you? Let me say it again, all right? So today, I talked to the bank. Hey, I want to borrow $100 from you. The bank said, okay, the stated annual rate is 10%. Based on the stated annual rate, you may think your interest payment per year is $10. No, it's not. It will only happen if you pay it annually, right? In fact, it won't be. In fact, you will pay monthly. And then you do a little bit calculation, you realize if you pay it monthly, overall, in that entire year, your actual payments of interest will be $10.25. Now, that will be your true interest payments. If this is your true interest payment, the principal is $100, then your effective annual rate will equal to 10.25%, which is an interest rate reflect your true payments. That's the meaning of effective annual rate. Does this make sense for you? I explain it backward because I explain it to you by giving you the number and then we have the EAR, effective annual rate. Let you know the meaning of EAR. But in practice, in fact, we need to calculate EAR first so you have a general idea about the interest rate payment you're going to pay every year, the actual interest payment. Okay? How it looks like and how to work it out. EAR, your effective annual rate, equal to 1 plus your stated annual rate, R. So R is the stated annual rate. Divided by M. M is number of compounding periods, monthly, quarterly, fortnightly, to the power of M, minus 1. It is an annual rate. An annual rate reflects your true interest payments. Any questions up to this stage? Very good. And of course, we will have a continuous compounding version if it gets compounded every second, every minute. And that's how your EAR looks like. I will give you an example about continuous EAR. Let's see the example. We do it one by one. Let's see the beauty of EAR and the trick of the bank. Because if you learn finance, you have a big knowledge about finance, you can then work out EAR by yourself. Nowadays, the bank is quite different because nowadays, because of internet and other stuff, people have more and more information. Nowadays, the bank will provide you with EAR as long as you talk to them. So they will still give you the stated interest rate, and then you talk to them, what is the EAR? They will give you a list of EAR. Okay? So they will provide you with this information. But back to 20 years ago, you won't know this unless you learn finance. You will always assume if the bank quoted you 10%, your interest is 10%. No, not really the case. That's why if you have a mortgage from the bank, normally you have two options, monthly or fortnightly. I will always go for monthly because fortnightly you pay more. If you can go quarterly, that will be the best. Okay? All right. 10% compound annually, 10% compound semi-annually, 9.9% compound quarterly. Let's compare. Let's compare the EAR. So now we have three stated rates. The first stated rate is 10% compound annually. 10% compound annually, so 10% is the stated rate, but it compound annually. If this is the case, EAR and stated interest rate, they are the same. Because it gets compounded annually, which means it only compounds once a year. So EAR and the stated interest rate will be the same. Okay, let's probably discuss because it's only compound once a year. From this example, you can see it's always 10% as well, EAR. Am I right? Can you see that? Okay, let's say 10% compound semi-annually. When we do 10% compound semi-annually, now it will be different. It compounds semi-annually, you will have an EAR of how much? 10.25%. Which means if you borrow $100 from the bank, if it's compound semi-annually, your actual interest payment over the year will be $10.25. Not $10, because based on the stated rate, you may think it's $10, but not really the $10. Does this make sense for you? Get it? Now, if you compare 10% compound annually and 10% compound semi-annually, apparently, the more frequent the number of compounds, the higher the EAR. Do you agree? What about the last one? 9.9% compound quarterly. It gets compounded 4 times a year, right? So M equal to 4. Do you agree? Are you able to work out EAR? It's 10.27%. It is even higher than what? Than the 10% compound semi-annually. So that's the trick of the bank. Sometimes if you work through, with all the due respect, you work through Bendigo Bank, 4.4% for the mortgage. That's pretty interest rate. We beat everyone, we only offer you 4%, and you check ANZ is 4.1, CBA is 4.2. You may think they give you the best interest. But what happened if it's compound more frequently than other bank? Am I right? If you look at the rate, one bank may give you 10% compound semi-annually, another bank give you 9.9% compound quarterly. You may think the second bank is better because 9.9% is lower than 10%. Am I right? But once you do the EAR calculation, what happened? It's not really the case. You actually pay more. And that's the trick of the bank. That's why you work through all the banks. They give you special deals, especially those small banks. Sometimes you will be surprised. Sometimes I was surprised. Banks, with all the due respect, like Bendigo or sometimes before we have St. George, they offer an interest rate which is even lower than CBE and ANZ. This doesn't make any sense. They shouldn't be. How could their cost be lower than them? And that's how they play the game. Okay? And that's something that you can put into consideration. That's why I always told you guys, finance is not only for your career, but also for your life is quite important. You have some kind of idea or logic in your mind. Up to this stage, any questions? Okay. All right, the last bit is not that important. Just let you know that APR and stated interest rate are the same because in different textbook we have different names. That's why sometimes I hate this unit as well. I know it's create a lot of trouble for you guys. Unfortunately, finance is a worldwide unit. It's not like other units. This finance unit is like we share similar content, similar document, or similar materials across different countries. But in different countries, we have different names for some particular item. For example, in United States, we named the bank quoted rate as stated annual rate, like what we've discussed. But in, for example, UK, we named this as annual percentage rate, APR. They are the same. Okay? So APR is the stated annual rate calculated by multiplying the periodic rate by number of periods in 1 year. If we only have one period, it's APR. So to most of the case, APR and the stated annual rate, they roughly share the same concept. Okay, but APR, if you have more than one period or something like this, APR is more like a simple interest method without consider compounding. We will discuss more about APR later on. But APR do not have the concept of compounding. And APY is a yield. And this yield do consider compounding frequency. But these two, don't worry too much about it. Just worrying that when you guys read the different journal articles or textbooks, they may have a different name of the rate. Just let you know that those rates sharing the same concept, they just name different names. But in this unit, we will only consider EAR and stated annual rate. That's all you need to know for this unit. Okay? All right. Last example, before we move to the workshop questions. Credit card. So you guys all have credit card, I assume. Credit card using continuous compounding. Okay, so credit card is actually using continuous compounding. Credit card interest compound every second is continuous compounding, which means credit card interest is pretty high. Okay, some of the organizations argue that credit card we are using like daily compounding, but if you do calculation, daily compounding and continuous compounding, they will roughly give you the same answer. So it's you can argue credit card is compounded every day. Okay, so it's like continuous things. You can work out the daily rate, and then you can work out the credit card actual rate. The credit card interest rate is huge. I'll give you guys one classical example. NAB offer you a credit card with stated annual rate, APR. So stated annual rate and annual percentage rate, they are the same, stated rate, of 13.99%. It's not too bad, 13.99%, but still very high, okay? And what is your effective annual rate if you have outstanding balance to pay? Let's assume it's compound daily, because exponential is very hard for you to calculate if you don't have a financial calculator. Let's assume it's compound daily. If it's compound daily, what happened? Your EAR, by using the calculation, is about 15.013%. That's 1% more than the actual quoted rate, isn't it? So credit card interest rate is actually pretty high, all right? Any questions about credit card? Now, one piece of advice. If you are students and if you think about long run, don't use credit card. If you really want to use credit card, try to keep your credit limit as minimum as possible. For example, below 1,000 or below 2,000. You may be wondering why? Because later on, when you're trying to talk to the bank, ask for mortgage, your credit card, car loan, and other factors will be considered by the bank. The more credit limit you have in your credit card, the more credit card you have, the higher the car mortgage or other mortgage you will have less money from the bank for your home mortgage. Okay? So don't try to apply credit card from different bank. This is stupid. I do have friends who used to show off me, hey Robert, I have 6 credit cards. Okay, 6 credit cards from 6 different banks. I pay credit card by using different banks' credit card. I don't need to pay everything, something like this. This is so stupid, very dumb. If he talk to the bank, apply for the home mortgage, he can't get any of the home mortgage. Okay, or home loan mortgage. So try to keep your credit limit as minimum as possible. Even the bank talk to you, hey, I want to raise your credit limit to $30,000, don't do it. All right, 3,000, 2,000 is enough. All you need to do for the credit card is like for day-to-day like life, or you're traveling around, use credit card, that's it. Okay, but it's not good for credit. Does this make sense for you? Up to this stage, any questions? Okay. All right, before we move to the workshop question, what we've learned, quick learning outcomes. After studying this topic, you will be able to describe the time value of money, the power of compound interest, calculate both present value and future value, and of course, present value, future value of cash flow streams, include mixed stream of cash flow, annuity, annuity due, and also perpetuity. Finally, the differences between stated annual rate and annual interest rate. Please note that in annuity equation, sometimes we need to include the number of compounds into the annuity equation, but with the same logic. You just need to divide the interest rate by number of M and times the number of periods by M, that's it. We will have more examples for on next week's topic. Again, this week's topic, a lot of things you need to learn, okay? Make sure you do spend some time in this week's topic. All right? This week's topic, fundamentals. Rest of topics all build on this week's topic. So please make sure you spend some time on this week's topic. And don't forget about your Aplia homework. Okay. Let's talk about the seminar question and workshop questions. Let me... Now, I won't spend too much time on the workshop question, I will normally go through the workshop questions together with you. But again, after the lecture, after the seminar, make sure you do allocate some time to make sure that you redo the seminar questions by yourself. If you truly understand the concept behind it, by redo those questions, mostly spend you about 20 minutes. That's it, okay? Steps to solve a time value of money problem. What are the key steps? Step 1, identify the key information of the question, and most importantly, please make sure that you draw a timeline. Do you guys still remember? For each of the individual questions I show you, or examples I show you in the seminar, I show you the timeline, right? Make sure you draw a timeline because you can count number of N payments, and you know whether it is annuity or ordinary annuity. And most importantly, even you can't do it in annuity approach, as long as you draw a timeline, you can always discount the cash flow one by one, or compound cash flow one by one. And that's identify key information. Second, identify the item to calculate and the relevant cash flow patterns. Identify the item to calculate. What is the question asking for? And what is the pattern of the cash flow? Is it a mixed cash flow stream or is it an annuity? Third, write down the equation. So you read your lecture slides, or in exam you found the formula, write down the equation, the right equation. If you identify this question is about present value of annuity due, then find the present value of annuity due equation, write it down. And then plug the number into the equation. And finally, perform the calculation. Does this make sense for you? Okay. Let's do the question together, see whether you are able to solve it. First one. You are a financial planner and you or your client asks you the following question. A, I need to save $37,000 over the next 15 years to fund my 3-year-old daughter's university education. If I make equal annual end-of-year deposits into an account that earns 7% annual interest, how large must this deposit be? Now let's see the question. First bit of information. I need how much money? $37,000 in how many years? 15 years. Is it a future value or present value? This is a future value. I need this amount of future value in 15 years. Okay? Now I want to know if I make equal annual end-of-year deposits, equal payments at the end of each year, equal time interval. If I want to make equal annual end-of-year payments, how much money should I put into the bank every year if the interest rate is 7%? Equal annual end-of-year payments, what is it? First of all, it is an annuity. End-of-year payments, what is it? Ordinary annuity, because it happened at the end of the year, right? Now, we have the future value. We have the interest rate. We know it is an ordinary annuity. This question is about future value of an ordinary annuity. Am I right? So this question is all about future value of an ordinary annuity. If this is the case, what should we do? Step 1, let's draw the timeline. Step 2, identify this is the future value, 37,000. Step 3, 15 years, interest rate 7%. And most importantly, end of year cash deposit next 15 years. This is an ordinary annuity with 15 cash payments and future value is 37,000. Found the equation. And that is the equation of future value of ordinary annuity. In your slide 30. You have this equation, question. You have future value, right? 37,000. You have interest rate 7%. You know the number of year payments, 15 years. What is this question asking for? It's asking for the PMT payment. How much is your annual payment? Are you able to solve it? Let's say we put the number into the equation. 37,000 is a future value. And 7% is the interest. 15 is the number of years. Are we able to solve PMT? Again, I went through the question. It sounds easy. Make sure you do the question by yourself without looking at the solution. Okay? You have to make sure that you are able to do the question independently. Not in this way, not in this approach. We plug the number into the equation. We then solve it. We then able to solve payment, which is equal to $1,472. Are there any questions? Any questions? Very good. That's our first practice, and that is a practice you can do it by yourself. You don't need to write it down. All those things is provided on you on Cloud Deacon. You have all those things on Cloud Deacon, okay? All right. Let's see the second question. Now, part B. What is part B? I borrowed 75,000. So I borrowed 75,000. I'm required to repay it in 6 equal end-of-year installments. What is the interest rate? What happened? I borrowed 75,000. Is it the present value or future value? Very good. I borrowed 75,000 present value. And I am required to repay in 6 equal annual end-of-year payments. Is it annuity? Is it an ordinary annuity? Ordinary annuity, present value. So present value of ordinary annuity. Am I right? Present value of ordinary annuity, we refer to lecture slides, and we have the equation. We do the exactly same step like what we did for part A. K information. We need the interest rate. That's what we want. We want the cash flow pattern. It's an ordinary annuity with 6 cash payments and present value 75,000. So we found the equation from our lecture slides. We found the present value of ordinary annuity equation in our lecture slides, which is this guy here. What should we do next? We plug the number into the equation. 75,000 present value. Annual payments. Number of payments. We're trying to solve what? We're trying to solve R. Am I right? Do you agree? Now, please note that, listen carefully. This question is a practical question. I'll show you here to let you know we can calculate R. And I will teach you how to do it as well. But please note, in your exam, I will not ask you to solve interest rate. In your exam, none of the question will be asked to solve an interest rate. You know why? Because without using a financial calculator, you cannot solve it. Because we cannot force students to buy a financial calculator, so you are lucky. We won't give you a question like this. By using normal calculator, you do it slowly, you can still work out payments, present value, right? But interest rate, you can't. How to solve it? You can either use a financial calculator or using Excel to get R. Or you are using a method called trial and error method, which is called keep trying method. But either way, we just can't solve it without using financial calculator. It takes a lot of time, okay? But just let you know, in practice, you can work it out. By using Excel, that's how to work it out. The equations are given you there. That's the formula by using Excel to work it out. Or alternatively, there is a method called trial and error method. Do you guys know what is trial and error method? This method is very funny. This method I named it as keep trying method. Keep trying method means you guess an interest rate, and you use the guessed interest rate to plug it in and see whether you guess correctly or not. If not, try it again. And if not, try it again. And eventually, you will have the right answer. Because this method is so stupid, so I don't ask you to do it. Okay? But anyway, that's what happened. But still, in practice, in many different scenarios, you may need to work out interest, or your company may ask you to work out interest. That's why I provide you with the Excel formula. And that's the Excel formula that you may need to use in practice, okay? But not examinable. The type of the question is examinable. Just how to calculate the interest won't be. If you do have an annuity question, I will only ask you to calculate N, or payment, or future value, or present value, but not interest. Get it? Okay. Up to this stage, any questions? Let's move to the next question. Okay. Assume that you just won lottery. You're lucky. Your prize can be taken either in the form of 40,000 at the end of each of the next 25 years, or as a lump sum of 500,000 paid immediately. If you expect to be able to earn 5% annually on your investments over the next 25 years, which alternative should you take and why? Think about this question. What is this question? You tell me. Assume you just won lottery. You can either take out the price in the form of 40,000 every year for the next 25 years. Or you can take out it as a lump sum of 500,000. Two options. Which option should you go for? You need to compare those two options. Am I right? When you're trying to compare these two options, very easy. You are trying to compare, listen carefully, the present value of the first option with the $500,000, isn't it? Because you can either get $500,000 right now at present time, or you can receive it as an annuity. Am I right? Look at it. Is it an annuity? Your price can be taken either in a form of 40,000 at the end of each year for next 25 years. What is it? Ordinary annuity. So this question is very simple. We identify the key information. Oh, this question, we are actually need to compare the present value of this ordinary annuity with $500,000. Am I right? Because your second option is the present value of $500,000. Do you agree? How you make your decision? Which one give you higher present value, you go for which option. That's it. Does this make sense for you? To this end, all we need to do is to work out the present value of the first option. What is the present value of the first option? Tell me. What is the present value of the first option? Not hard. The present value of the first option, we need to apply the present value of ordinary annuity equation. Am I right? The present value of ordinary annuity equation, that's how it looks like. Present value equal to payment divided by interest rate times 1 minus 1 plus r to the power of n on 1. Do we know your annual payments? Is it given? How much is it? 40,000, right? Do you know the interest rate? Do you know the interest rate? 5%, right? Do you know n, number of years? 25 years, right? Are you able to work out the present value? Yes or no? How much is the present value? 5,637,60. What happened? The present value of this ordinary annuity cash flow stream is higher than you get your money out right now. Do you agree? Yes or no? Which means what? You should choose the first option, annuity. Do you agree? Now, do you guys still remember the relationship between interest rate and present value? If interest rate goes up, present value decreases, right? Very good. Let's do the last question. Same question, but part B. Would your decision be different if you would earn 7% rather than 5%. We apply still the same method, but now the interest rate is 7%. Am I right? What about the present value now? What about the present value now? We apply the 7% into the equation. As we all know, interest rate goes up, present value decrease. What's the present value? Huh? Present value now will be $466,171, isn't it? Do you agree? Now, which option should we go for? We go for the second one. Is this question hard? Identify the question. Think about what is the question asking for, and then solve it accordingly. Yes, the equation may look scary, but the equation is provided. Once the equation is provided, all you need to do is identify the right equation, plug the number into the equation, that's it. Isn't it? Up to this stage, any questions? Any questions? Okay, that's basically everything for this week's seminar. Now, two things. First of all, don't forget about your Applia homework. Second, if you have anything about your Applia sign up, please come to see me after class, okay? And show me the problem. Let's try to solve it, all right? I'll see you guys next week. Yeah, Victor? No, that's all right. I can use my computer. Just 1 second. Yeah. 1 second. Yeah, I know it. I want to. Who?
下一个，要不然来。去就是这个，对，也，那拿多少个？
I don't know why, but it's send me. Just don't leave. Probably I think you have the same question with you. Just don't leave. Yeah. Record everything on first view. Recordings. So watch my recordings on audio. There's 2 recordings. I record everything. Yeah. First recording everything. This is a long version, actual recording, and short version. Alright, I'm stopping the instructions. Yeah. Can you have a book? Oh, yes, you can. Yes, sure. This book elaborate. Watch my first week's recording. Yeah, watch my first week equity reporting. There's video recording from first week, week 1. If you log into there, there's recording, there's 2 recordings. One is equity reporting, one is reporting. And I'll actually demonstrate the steps of how to do this step by step. Watch it today. Yeah. Show me the set. You have to show me the set. Because you think about it, if your answer is right, and if your answer is wrong, how do I know? Yeah, show me the steps. For this, I will explain before the example. But show me the steps. Only take you extra 1 or 2 minutes to show me the steps. It's up to you. But I want you to show me it. Because if it's wrong, it's still get marks. Just one more, 1 second. Yeah. I come back to you tomorrow. No. Yeah. The present value will be on your negative profile. It depends. Yeah. But you just like how you define it. So I use the ordinary annuity sometimes if you work it out in your small on how you define it. Yeah. But you are right, it depends. But Aplia? Yes. Do you have a don't leave. I'll solve his question first. Yeah. What's your issue with Aplia? Yeah, no. Yours is the first one I have this issue. Because I don't know why. Because it's just.
Check if it's working. Okay.
That's strange. I don't know. I'll send the email to Cengage. But hang on, just for a second. Just give me a second. So I'll show you. So basically, see if I sign in with Apple with my account and all other students, and that's how it should look like. That's how it looks like.
Okay.
But you are actually the first account which actually have different issues.
Okay.
I'll send the email to Cengage team this afternoon. I'll come back. Yeah, and don't worry about your first assessment. For your first apply homework, I will give you mark for that. Yeah.
Okay.
You will solve it, but I will give you mark for first assessment anyway. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah. I'll try to solve it, but we will figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And I'll try to solve your issue as soon as possible. Don't worry. If they are not able to solve it out by using your account, I will let them to create an account for you, and by using the created account for you. Okay. I will let them create a new account for you. All right. I'll see you next time, Victor. Yeah. Yeah. What's your question? Put it down.
Yeah, sure.
So did you start as a returning student?
Yes, I do. Like your SPA advice?
No, not this page.
All right.
Not this page. Did you sign up? I want you to go to this page. Go to applia.com. You go to applia.com. And then
it's already here.
And then you go to this one, sign in with Applia. Did you try this?
Yeah.
Did you try this?
Not right now.
Try it now, yeah.
All right.
Now, what's your problem?
You can't record anything on Applia yet?
Yes, I do. Not sign up here. I told you that's where you should sign up. So you go to Applia. Boom. .com. Click this one here.
Oh, okay.
Try it now. Try it now. just before you leave, Victor, did he create the account in this way? Because the issue he has actually happened with other students, but other student is logged into the wrong page. Let me ask you one more things. Let me. One second, I'll show you. Is it work? Is it working? Hey.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Because he logged into the same page as yours. But once I use the link I show him, he log into the right one. That's why I don't know why you're still like this, but I'll show you.
Okay.
Did you sign up into the page as my instruction? Oh my God. Yeah. Let's see. You solved?
Just the last.
Yes, this is the one. Yeah, this is the one, right? Yeah. So you create the account by using E.
Which one?
I'll show you. Oh, this computer is so slow. I don't know, but let me click this one. Okay. Let me download it. Yep. Did you use this link?
No.
No. Ah, that's the issue. Yeah. Let's do it now. Yeah.
Okay.
So what you need to do, do it in the computer. So you just click this link. Maybe.
Okay.
That's what you need to do. Yeah. We just maybe copy and paste here. This computer is so slow. Sorry.
Okay.
That's all right.
Yeah. So once you click the link, you need to sign up here. Try this one. We do it right now, yeah? Don't worry.
So this week, not the annual assignment.
I told you, the after homework is arranged on due date. This is the one.
Okay.
It's not started. You start today on the evening.
Okay.
This one. Just click it. So click it. And view your assignment. And the homework will start tonight, okay?
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
When heavy.
I think you can't.
Thank you, sir.
Alright, this email address, please send. That's alright. Do you have personal email? Use a personal email. Use a personal email and send me your personal email. I will have your record. I will know that is you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Do you create an account? Okay. Once you create an account,
Okay.
you create an account, right? And then we go to apply. See whether it is working this time. It's still not working with cost engage, but it should be all right. Try to sign in with your. Yeah. It's the email you just create. Yeah.
So for this kit, you always need to use the personal email address for this.
If it's working, yeah. If it's working, yeah. Hope it's working. Yeah, now it's working. So now you can verify it later, and you can go to the course. Just 1 second, okay. Let's go to the course, and you click view or assignment.
Yeah.
And tonight you will have the first one. Yeah. Make sure that you send me your personal email address after the course. You send me an email, so I know that's you. So at the end of the trimester, I will get the marks of you, and I'll put it there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Good luck. Yeah. What's your question?
Alright.
Yeah. I'll close it for you. Yeah.
So it
That's the first week, isn't it? That's the practice one.
for Rossi, not right in there.
View all assignment.
Okay, and then
Your first one is here. It's not started yet.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll
I'll make it start anyway. I will make it start now. See you. Bye. I will make it start now. So just give me a second. Sign in with apply. Oh no, not this one. So many passwords. I don't even know my password. Where is my assignment? That's the second topic. I'll probably make it start right now. What time is now?
Start right now.
But make it like
But if we don't no assignment in there, and it would for.
I know. I told you you need to learn. That's why you need to learn. I told you in the first week the assignment is arranged on due date.
Long due date.
Yeah,
So
arranged based on due date.
for week one, I just brought it in there. No break.
You can if you refresh it, it will be there. It's arranged on due date, which means this is the due date.
So I want to confirm in week one, I just brought it, not right.
No.
And
Big
assignment,
file, nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, start on in week 4, and then long due date, right?
Assignment start on week 2 today.
Oh, today.
Yeah, the due. As I mentioned in first week, this assignment for each of the assignment you have 2 weeks spent to finish it.
2 weeks finish for finish.
For each of the assessment, you have 2 weeks time to finish it.
Yeah.
And that's why this is arranged on due date. Week 4 is the due date of this one. So today, in the evening, you will able to do this assignment. And then you have,
right.
Till week 4, you have 2 weeks time to finish it. I put it on week 4 because I want students to know this is the due date. Get it?
Okay.
That's how it works.
Okay.
I need probably to make it for 11:45 p.m. to change it back. Yeah, that's better. Okay? That's how it works.
Start now.
Not start now, start from this evening, tonight.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank
So you have 2 weeks time to finish, and due date is there. So it's arranged on due date because each of them you have 2 weeks time. It's arranged on due date. Okay. Now what can I do for you?
Sir, I just create an account in Apply, but it's not showing.
Yeah, that's why you need to watch my first week recording. Go to apply.com, type apply.com. And then, yeah, sign in.
Yeah, I just created a new account.
Yeah, you sign in with the wrong one. You go to the Deacon page.